Hello again. Good to see everyone. Today we are talking about Cpctc, and you might be wondering, I think I remember that, but what does it mean? And we're going to kind of talk a little bit about what it means and how it is useful in math. Okay, so we're going to be using Cpctc. We're going to just review what it is and how to use it. So Cpctc, it stands for corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So we're going to be using the fact that once we prove triangles are congruent, which we did last week, that this can actually be useful to prove some other things about other triangles that they're congruent with. So let me slide this over here, that way we can see what's going on, hopefully. We'll start off by saying we already know that these two triangles are congruent. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Remember, the order that these vertices are listed is important, okay? But according to Cpctc, that means AB is congruent to DE, BC is congruent to EF, and AC is congruent to DF. So we've got AB congruent to DE, EF congruent to BC, and AC congruent to DF. So again, with an equilateral triangle like this one, it's a little bit harder to notice, but again, these are still kind of important. You'll see a little bit more as we go into some different ones. And also, you'll notice that angle A is congruent to D, E to B, and C to F. So you will notice those angles are also congruent. The order is important, just a reminder, okay? So let's say this, that whenever we have triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF, notice I've adjusted these triangles just a little bit. They're not equilateral anymore. And we know that the measure of angle A is 30. What is the measure of angle D then? Okay, so again, the order is important. It's triangle ABC is congruent to DEF, so we still know that A is congruent to D because of Cpctc. Congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So we can tell that since A is 30, D is also 30 degrees because they are congruent because of Cpctc. Congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Sides and angles make up a triangle, okay? And those sides and angles would be congruent. So this right here, it says triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. The measure of angle A is 30. The measure of angle B is 40. So what's the measure of angle F? Okay, so again, order is important. So let's look at what we know. Okay, A is 30. B is 40. What angle in this triangle corresponds to angle B? If it's A, B, C, A, B, C, D, E. E is going to be the one that corresponds to B. So B and E are the same angle. Okay, B and E are the same angle. Measure of angle B is 40. That means the measure of angle E is 40. So we know this one is 30, this one is 40, and that way we're going to know the measure of angle F is, well, we only have a certain amount of degrees left. If you remember, a triangle has 180 degrees. Okay, so all three angles, when you add them together, will always equal 180 degrees. So if we've got 40 and 30, that's 70. D is 30, E is 40, so 70. Then we have at the end, we've got 180 minus 70, we've got 110 degree angle. 110 degree angle, okay? And even though it might not look like 110 degrees, and it's not obviously to scale, that's what we're saying it is, and that's what you've been given, so that's all you can go off of. Okay, obviously in this triangle, these angles are not exactly 110 degrees, would be an obtuse angle, which would be more than 90 degrees. So it's just kind of math problems at their finest, right? It doesn't always appear to be exactly what it looks like. Okay, let's look here. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Okay, again, we're looking at this, and we want to solve for x. Okay, again, this should be pretty straightforward, but just in case we're not familiar, this is the way that we use Cpctc. Congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Well, we say, we already know from our last problem, B is congruent to E, so X is 35, okay? X is 35. Now for this one, a little bit different. Let me give you a chance to actually solve for this. Go ahead and try to solve for X. We know that triangle ABC and triangle DEF are congruent. So take a moment, pause the video, and go ahead and do this. All right, hopefully you did. I've noticed that most of my viewers are not making it even to this 5-minute mark. So if you're still with me, thank you for watching the video actually, but keep going, okay? Keep doing this work. If you really want to succeed in this class, this is what it's going to take, okay? So if you solve for X, 10 plus X is equal to 2X. And we say that because AB is congruent to DE according to Cpctc, okay? We know that congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So AB corresponds to DE. So we can put that in an equation together and solve for X. We get X equals 10. Okay, now I've got this here. I've got some parts labeled. We know these two triangles are congruent. Solve for Z here. So solve for Z. Go ahead, you should have paused it and did that. If not, I'll give you the answer now, or you can pause it now and go ahead and do that. So if we solve for X, Y, and Z, or in order to solve for Z, we've got to solve X and Y first. So our goal was to solve for Z, but we have no corresponding information here on D. We know this is 79, but we don't know what X is. If we solve for X, we could actually solve for D as well, because Y is 79, and Y being 79 and X being 35, we can subtract both of those from 180 to get our answer for Z, which is the same as angle D, angle A, the measure, which we can solve that for ourselves. It's 66, okay? All right, and this is really it for just a quick intro to Cpctc, showing you how to connect some dots and solve for some unknown values, knowing that these two triangles are congruent. If you've seen it to the end of this video, I am proud of you. Thank you guys for watching. I love you.